typically start.
Hey everybody, Sean Delott here with the Davidson's Delott Real Estate team of RE/MAX Niagara.
Hello friends, Patrick Burke here with the B team at Niagara Realty, also in Niagara. Welcome to episode number 3 of our podcast. It's a pleasure doing this. We love it. And if you haven't checked out the last one, we do apologize. There was a bit of a audio technical issue, but the content is dynamite. So if you haven't listened to it, it's a bit of background on myself and Sean, how we got into the business, some background on the business in general. I think some good insight if you're newer to the industry. And then also if you're just a real estate sort of spectator, it's a bit of a behind the scenes, I guess you can call it, eh?
Yeah.
And go check it out and ignore the less than stellar audio. Not like today we have the velvet sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. So today, big day.
We have a guest.
Our first guest. It's our friend Nick Mirka. Nick, welcome. So Nick brings with him a whole basket of different interesting background tidbits. Nick's a former realtor. Nick's dad's. How long's your dad been a realtor?
Since I was a fetus.
Since houses?
Yeah. No. Like basically, he's like, I think like I was in the oven.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need to get a job that pays half decent, and went for it. So.
And you were born when?
1985.
So that was right after wasn't the market really weird in the early 80s, right?
He's seen it all.
Yeah.
Like he's seen high interest rates, inflections. Like yeah.
And Sean and I, we both got kids, and I think being the child of a full-time realtor, you gain a lot of insight as a kid, right? Like my son will make fun of me and talk about days on market and seller objections and all this stuff, and he can do realtor talk. So you've been around the industry forever.
Oh, totally. And I remember it going to showings. My dad and mom being like, we gotta show this couple.
Yeah.
And so like here I am, like just either waiting in the car when you were allowed to leave your kids in the car for a while.
Yeah.
Or like switching the sign. I always like doing that.
Yeah.
So I was always like the unpaid assistant, child labor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can, to this day, if I say to my kids, guys, I just have to stop and swing by a house, like I get ribbed for it.
Oh.
And I've been doing it to them since they were in a child seat, but back then they couldn't do anything because they were strapped in, right?
Yeah. Well, my kids have no inclination to get into the real estate business as much as I try many, many a times to encourage it.
Do you?
I do. But, she's 11 and she's not there yet. So, but I get the same thing too. I just got to stop at this house real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, Daddy, why? But it's nice that we have a career we can actually do that as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So,
oh yeah, you could be at the games and network at the games. So it's kind of it works. You can.
Hey, kids are a great tool to help us. Parents at schools.
There you go.
Great for referrals and everything like that.
Yeah. So when realtors sort of break out their business strategy on the big whiteboard and they have their like sources of business revenue streams, you got kids as one of your columns.
I do.
I love it.
I do.
Well, I had my dad always coached my baseball team, and awesome dad move. But him and his buddies, Bob Martins and Dale Barry, who were all at RE/MAX Garden City at the time, got in.
Yeah.
So our baseball team would have a RE/MAX Garden City on there, and you have 3 realtors who are all like coaching the team, but also definitely wearing their sweaters that had RE/MAX all over it. So.
Well, watch out for Merrittville season 2022 because I believe our logo is going to be on the back of a car going around Merrittville Speedway.
Sweet.
Nice.
Whatever, I'm not sure what league that's considered. But yeah, so we're pretty excited. So the reason we have Nick on today, as much as all the growing up as the child of a realtor is an interesting tale. Nick went just through, well, the official title of this podcast is, if there's orchestra music, if I can put it in right now, cue, a buyer's epic journey in a historic seller's market. Something like that.
There
right?
you go. That's
Yeah.
good.
Like, I see mountains. I see like the sun time-lapse thing. You're cresting a hill. All that kind of stuff.
Very Yellowstone.
So Nick just went through the journey from, hey, think we should move. All of a sudden we have 3 kids. We're a bit over stuffed into our house. We need office space. Went from that process 2 years ago, 2020, the whole journey. Well, the conversation might have started before that. So went through the whole journey and through, again, I use, historic it was an epic, it was an unprecedented to some extent seller's market that we've gone through. So he just went through that whole process, figuring out what you want to do, the mortgage qualification stuff, the what do we want to buy, going looking at houses, and then all of a sudden there's 18 offers on a place. And so we wanted to go through that journey and what the experience was like, what worked, what didn't work, frustration points, what drove you crazy, what you appreciated, how many offers you made, things you would do differently, all that kind of stuff. So bring us back to the very beginning of the process. So this is some point in 2020.
Yeah. So beginning, I mean, we kind of knew the shape of our family, and that I think really kind of plays an impact. Like we love where we live. We're north of Lakeshore right now. 3 kids, 3+1 bedroom bungalow. And there's just like that feeling like you just want a little bit more space, which I think everybody was feeling as soon as March 2020 hit. Everyone's like, hey, do you feel like we're on top of each other? So we were thinking about that, kind of dreaming about that, but also not really like feeling the pressure to move because we love where we were. And we could easily have stayed there for another good round. But I was thinking, like, when our kids turn into teenagers,
it's going to get tight.
And, and then we're going to start having to modify. Also, you have 3 kids, 3 bikes, 3, scooters, 3 everything. And I'm just like, I want a little bit more storage space, you want a pool, things like that. And so we kind of just saw a house over on Westgate Park. And that's kind of what sparked it all. It was like this one home. Oh, it's in the same school district. My kids love their school. They love their friends. And I'm like, oh, let's check it out. And so we did. And we checked it out at noon on a Sunday. Offers had to be in at 2 that same day. And so that was our introduction. Like my dad's so we saw it, and Kristen and I, my wife Kristen, we were like, oh, I think this could be good. And my dad's like, so
you got 8 minutes.
Just so you know, like, and my dad and I talk about the market, but I wasn't really aware of like how quick that those things were happening. And so we're like, okay. And I remember my in-laws were watching our kids. We come home. We just saw the showing. We both like it. And not only do we have to like make a decision on whether or not we're going to put an offer in on this home, it was like we had an hour. And so like, when you're like, you have to really make a big decision, but like people are also being like, so I'm a little hungry. Like, do you think you want a Mediterranean pizza? You want Canadian? And you're like, I don't care. Don't know, whatever. Yeah. So we threw in an offer that day. And as soon as we did, I kind of had almost regret, like almost instantly. I was like, oh no, I don't know if I want this house. Which was funny, and we didn't get it. We even threw in an offer over list, no conditions. I was like, wow, we really committed fast to this thing. And we didn't get it, thankfully. But that really spawned Chris and I starting to be like, okay, well, why did we want this home? What were we looking for? And we started going through that whole list of,
And then, so Nick, you guys went and saw that house, and you guys jumped right into the market then.
Oh yeah.
Like it was the first kind of viewing you guys had. You jumped right in the market. So that was in 2020, was it spring? Like
probably July or August.
Okay. So that was, we got out of all the lockdowns. Kids were not really allowed into viewings at that time. So you'd see houses, just you and your wife and your dad, who was representing you as your agent. And you got thrown right into the fire.
That was the plastic glove market. We were putting on gloves to show homes.
It was weird.
It was weird. It was historical.
It was historical. But that was the spring market of 2020. When you guys started, that was February, March. April was July, August, September, because June was still waking up even. So you were out there when there was lineups and it was so counterintuitive too, right? Like during a pandemic, we had some of the biggest volume happened during lockdowns. And which, again, counterintuitive, like who would have thought, right? So you were out there on the trail with, your expectation, I'm guessing, was surprise? Were you a bit surprised to see the activity?
I mean, at first, but it all made sense to me. Like everybody was stuck in their house. People started working from home. And so basically that weekend, I went to Chris, I'm like, we may want to move because I don't know what the future is going to look like for a lot of society. I at that time, there was murmurings of a lot of businesses. We bumped into someone from Etobicoke. So we were over at Hometown Ice Cream with the kids.
Nice.
And this young couple comes and they're asking me like, "Hey, so do you live nearby?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I go, "Where are you guys from?" And they're like, "Etobicoke." Like, we work for a bank. We can't say what, but we just heard our headquarters is closing officially.
Yeah.
And we're all work from home now.
Yeah.
So they're like, so we're thinking about moving like either St. Catharines or Stony Creek. So we got in a conversation, but that was like the same time, June, July, August. So I was like, oh, and they're like, yeah, hundreds and hundreds of employees are now work from home. We live in Etobicoke. We can sell our 700 square foot condo, move down here, have a nice lot. Basement, all that stuff. And so I was like, ooh.
It amazed me how quick that happened too.
Yeah.
Especially in the white collar financial industry, which is, they always hedge and make decisions based on risk and everything else. And all of a sudden it was like, I had all kinds of quote unquote, like people in the finance industry. One couple, both of them were in that, and they were down here. They moved to Fawn Hill. And permanent work from home. And so all of a sudden before we'd have people say, it'd be really nice if we could have a home office. It'd be really nice if we could. All of a sudden it was like, we can't buy the house unless we have a minimum 4 bedrooms and 2 offices.
Yeah.
And that became as important.
And I agree. And I think that was the first wave during the pandemic. As soon as we got out of those lockdowns, was that people wanted to instantly change their lives. They were cooped up.
Boom.
This weird anomaly, a pandemic, like what's going on in the world, the cram cities, people want to escape from that. And I think that was kind of the first wave. And then the interest rates just kept low.
Yeah.
And everyone just started.
Yeah, the overnight went from 1.75 to 0.25. Okay, so you did that offer, and then so you're on the trail. You know what you're looking for. You guys are on the hunt. You're actively looking at houses. You're scouring Realtor.ca to an extent.
Yeah. So
you're on the hunt. Though.
We're basically on. Like I left real estate like maybe 6 years ago, but you never really leave it. You're always kind of interested. Like if a
it's
friend,
like herpes.
Yeah.
Well, not particularly the interest, but it never really leaves you.
Yeah. All my friends.
Sorry.
That was one of your better analogies, buddy.
There we go. Way to go.
It's
hot. No, but like when my friends are like thinking of listing or buying a home, like there's insight that I'm interested, right? Yeah. So we were looking, but at that point I kind of Chris and I had real conversations of I think that there's something really big shifting here. So that was like summer 2020.
Yeah.
And I thought there's a permanency to people working from home. You saw a lot of amazing local businesses not close, but close their brick and mortar. Yeah. And they're like, hey, we're all going to work from home. And then you have finance, like a big bank in Etobicoke area is like, we're shutting down shop. We're going to do this. So I was like, we didn't really want to move at this time. Like we were homebodies. We loved our home. It's all set up. It's like, I just needed to do one thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, if the right home came for the next, couple decades, let's move. Let's do it. And then all of a sudden it became almost like, ooh, we may want to do this soon because the housing market is just continuously crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got into did you do any other offers in 2020?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the craziest thing, so we were bouncing numbers and so we did that one on Westgate Park, and then 2 weeks later Kristen booked this house on Portmaster in Port Dalhousie. Yep. Beautiful 2-story, 4-bedroom. It had one of the most epic Muskoka-like sunrooms. Like you're talking 5 skylights, 2 fans, seasonal windows that you can take off with screen doors. It you're in that room and you could just taste the coffee.
Sounds like a home still strikes the core with you from your service.
Yeah. This was the one that got away.
Okay.
This is we put in 14 offers. This was offer number 2,
and it's the one that got away.
That was the one that we kept talking about. Okay. We loved the area. It was like a 2-minute stumble to one of my best friends, like right across Main Street in Port.
Like this was a Fenora listing, right?
Kate Fenora.
So
yeah, and
I'm not saying anything, Kate.
I'm not saying anything. No, you know where we're at is good. But yeah, that was one where we learned. So it was higher than what I even wanted to look at. But it was the home that when I was walking through, I especially that sunroom, in-ground pool, private backyard, I was like, oh, I want to give my family this.
Yeah.
And I had that moment. I normally like pretty much like, be content, be grateful with what you have and everything. But that was the moment where I'm like, oh, there's something special here. This feels special. And so my wife and I, we put in an offer. And at the time we weren't really accustomed to the multiple offer thing. I think we came in second, and I think we only like lost out by about 15 grand or something. And Kate almost seemed heartbroken. Tara Flynn was the
winning one.
The winning one, and so I still look at Tara sometimes. I'm like, hey Tara, no, she's awesome. She's fantastic.
She's fantastic.
No,
That's funny.
my wife and I bumped into her. Our kids go to the same school. Oh, no. I'm like, oh, Kristen, this is Tara. You see her in the Bolt commercials that we did, and she's like, yeah. I'm like, she's also the one who stole our house.
Yeah.
And you just see the look like, oh,
that's funny.
And then she's like, well, you'll find one. I'm like, 2 years later. Great. Nah, it's all good things, right? And that would have been uprooting our kids. So those are real conversations too. Like we loved our neighbors, we love our neighborhood, our kids love their school, their everything. So
question for you though. You're choosing to buy a house in this crazy market, but not only that, you're not just a buyer, you're also a seller. Okay,
that's an important point to make.
Absolutely, because if you're just selling a home, easy peasy. If you're buying, well, it's the same battle. But there is an area, and especially too, Nick, when you have a house to sell, and you're buying these houses, and the challenge is you're multiple offering. You don't know what you have to pay for the house, but you don't 100% know what you're going to get for your house either. Right? So therefore, when you're offering on these houses, you got to be somewhat cautious because you don't want to overextend yourself just in case you don't get that dollar. So I feel for you through this whole process, but I commend you. You were very patient. You didn't, you kind of probably picked your spots. You figured out what you were looking for. You didn't go and see every house. And not only that, over the 2 years, you got accustomed to the whole process. So it's like, hey, offers are Tuesday. Honey, let's go see it Saturday. Then we can marinate on it, kind of figure out what we got to do, just like kind of everyone else. But, it's challenging. So you offered on Port Master. It's the one that got away. Yeah. I'm sure there was others where you're like, through numbers, hey, if I get it at this number, I'm happy. If someone goes over that, well, they're crazy, and congratulations, you can have the house.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There was a lot of those, too, where it's like, we put in our best, we felt good, but you still have that, like, okay, so we could be overextending ourselves. This is how we're going about it. But every offer that we put in, we don't feel like we regret not going higher, for the exception of Port Master. Everyone's like there were ones where I remember the agent told my dad, your guys came in second, and the other offer was just too good, and I think it was 80 or 90,000 over ours. And I'm like, I told Kristen, I'm like, at least feel confident. We're never going to be that buyer.
Yeah.
Because the market could swing in a month, and then it's not worth what that was.
And so you hit the nail on the head there, because as you're doing this through 2 years of doing this, you see that there was heightened parts of the market, but then there was also points of kind of mild balancing as well. Through, you started in 2020, then you had 2021, which had some balancing in the summer and different things like that. So as a buyer, did you start finding the market very confusing?
You needed your finger on the pulse. And I'm like, I have experience in real estate. My dad is a realtor. I'm friends with realtors. Like, this is a thing. But if I was getting into this market and I didn't have that guidance or experience, I would be lost. And that is where, even from a local standpoint, This is where I'm going to promote local Niagara realtors. But it really is like we saw homes that look great in the worst neighborhoods going crazy high, and you look at who's representing the buyer, and you're like, Mississauga agent, you're like, yeah, the home is good, but do you know where you're buying? So having your finger on the pulse was so important, and like it would swing. And so I commend you guys for what you're doing here with this podcast, because like Sally McGar, Remax, like if you're as a community not talking about what's happening, what happened with that listing, how'd your offer situation go, what's hot, like you guys are connecting in a way that kind of keeps everybody in the know, and you're helping the market, which helps your buyers, helps your sellers, and we needed to constantly be paying attention. But like when we first started, we were thinking our house would be listed around $599.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
And now we listed at $899 in a 2-year journey. We were looking at homes at like, $699, $799. At the end, we were like looking at homes that were $999 to like 1.1. Like the market shifted in
2 years.
Yeah,
the market, you're a $300,000 to $500,000 shift.
Insane.
Yeah.
How do you
crazy.
Do that?
We've never experienced that. All three of us, your dad being in real estate for as long as he has, Pat and I, you being it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So did you ever feel like giving up through this process?
Yeah, because 14 offers roughly means you probably saw 50, 60 houses.
You know what? We got to a point where we knew what we wanted and didn't want. Like when we were looking,
but over 2 years, that's it. That's sort of a hum always running in the background.
Yeah,
I don't even think there was 50 houses over that 2 years still for him to go see. He knew your area.
Yeah.
I kind of know where you're at. You were specific.
Yeah, over 2 years.
But over 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably wager that we probably saw 25.
Okay.
Like I really think that by the time, because I looked at the schematics, basically I looked at the room sizes, I looked at the area, like we didn't go unless we were already like thinking about putting in the offer.
And you know what style of house you want, because we all have some buyers that they'll look at anything, and until they see 4 back splits or whatever's, do they realize
don't want it.
I got a question for you,
so
Nick.
Let's go back to your question though. Is that was there a point that you were like, you got home from work, or Kristen got home from work, and you're like, you know what? Let's just stay here. I can't do this anymore.
And even to add to that, did you ever say, you know what, this is absolutely crazy where these house prices are going. Yeah. We could put an addition onto our house for, before that was never an option here in Niagara, but now
we had a bunch of clients
these prices, and myself as well. I said, guys, don't move, just spend $60,000 in that addition. Was that ever an option?
That was a real conversation.
Okay.
My wife and I, like when we would put in an offer, we would have big conversations. Are we excited about this? If we put in a couple offers in Font Hill. Love Font Hill.
Absolutely.
But the first couple on those was like, are we sure we want to move to Font Hill? Like we were taking our kids to parks there. We would check it out, and we loved it. Like we have friends out there that I'm like, this could be really cool. And I feel like it would be a very hard move to stomach. And then 2 years in, we'd be like, we'd find a community and we'd feel really good there. But when you didn't get some of the homes that you really liked, there's a handful that was like, oh, like it stings. It stung.
And it took, how long would you say it took to get over it? A day, a couple days, or a week? Or did another house come up and you're just like, okay, let's just keep on going?
So it fluctuated between my wife and I. Like sometimes it was like
she liked one more than you, a little bit.
We are usually on the same page with a lot of things with this. So like I feel like when we both really liked a home, both of us were on that home, and so we both like just kind of look at each other at the dinner table and be like, okay, but so we did have moments where, especially Kristen had a couple moments where she was like, I don't know if we can afford this market, because we'd come in, there's one home that we
did you ever disagree on offer prices? Or did you both come to the decision and formulate it? Because sometimes if you liked one more, you're like, no, well, let's just go 20 extra more. Or did you have an actual like science to it where you knew kind of what you were going to look at for the value of your home, and you just kind of kept it
So we were always playing with margins, but not knowing what it would sell for and not knowing what ours would sell for always was like this 6-figure gamble.
Challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
It was tough.
Yep.
So we did have moments where we're like, oh, we really liked, but there was always for a price. We normally kind of landed around the same spots. And we trust each other.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful. A lot of the times we would do this. There was a couple times where like, oh, like we want to give more, but even then it was like, I don't know if do we? And so, and I was more of the mindset of I like being a very present father, and so making sure that we weren't house poor is very huge for me. I wanted to be able to take my kids camping.
And did you keep your kids involved through the whole process?
Yeah, that's a
because
question I've got.
COVID's a little different, and they couldn't come to the showing, so they weren't totally involved like previous family things. But did you kind of say, "Hey, mom and dad are going to go see a house today," and it's kind of thing?
Yeah, we would let them know, and I mean my daughters were just like, does it have a pool? And if it has a pool, that's good. The one on Portmaster, the picture had a pink flamingo, and I still owe my daughters a pink flamingo.
Yeah.
So that now because our new house does have a pool, so and they're expecting that, and I think it's fun.
Sure.
But so we would share with them, and I don't think they really got it yay or nay. My oldest is 7, and so her concern was always like she really loves her friends and at school. Like my youngest does too, but she doesn't have as much of a...
How old is your oldest?
7. So she's in grade 2.
Okay, so she's got that connection more and doesn't want to miss them. And then how old's your youngest?
My youngest is 3.
Oh, so
he's easy peasy.
He's easy peasy. Fix and meet. He's like Amelia for me. She can go anywhere and just fit right in. So.
My daughters, they have good friends. They love them. They love where they're at. And so like if we were moving from the school district, it was a big conversation. Are we happy? What is the school like there? Where are we going to be? But the kids felt they were okay. I mean, I think it was more us, like we would feel the disappointment. So yeah, we had moments where we'd be outside with the measuring tape being like, okay, so if we put a garage here, or what if we do it over here? And like we were just trying to adjust the house. And also we loved our street, our neighbors, the walk to the lake. It was fantastic.
So with the kids thing, because I know, or I try to caution people when they bring their kids, because if you don't get the house, the kids get excited and then they get let down. We're going to see another house, the kids get excited, and I always I don't know if I would bring my kids. Mind you, mine are older, and and with age comes more expectations. They want 2 flamingos. By the way, on our Instagram account, I don't know if you saw it, like 3 years ago, we had a unicorn floaty in our pool.
Oh yeah,
and it got a hole in it. So I started a whole Instagram highlight series of like the life and of this unicorn floaty, complete with music. Like you're a director. Like there was some director chops I think I expressed.
I gotta watch this.
So yeah, it's but so were you physically bringing your kids to the showings?
No. First of all, we weren't allowed.
Yeah, right. But even just in the van and all that sort of stuff.
There was a couple where we did, where it's like this. Like there was a couple where it's like, the homes listed Friday, offers are being looked at Sunday. We can't find sitters, especially in the height of those lockdowns and stuff. It's just like, so, and thankfully we had my dad there. So we would like be, all right. Yeah. Well, I'd go in, Kristen would stay out with the kids, and like he was.
So question for you though.
Yeah.
Sometimes at the height of it, you guys were only allowed 15 minutes in the house.
Yeah.
And you guys are making decisions. No inspections, no financing, 15 minutes to look at this house.
Yeah.
And like you said, the first time you went and saw the first one that started this whole journey, you literally had 2 hours to make
from the beginning of the appointment.
Yeah, that's 12 to 1. And then you got to have your offers. Offers were already being registered as you're going through the house.
Yeah. That agent was very gracious to my dad. My dad's like, my kids just went through it. It's 1:30. When's your presentation? We'll register now, but we might be like getting in as soon as you get it.
Yeah. So actually that brings up another question now.
I think I know where you're going.
Okay. So you're a buyer, you've been out there, you've experienced this market actually through about 2 years of this, okay? And as being a realtor in this business for 20 years, Nick, I'm going to say I'm not always happy with the behavior that this market has caused, how agents deal with the multiple offer situations. There's we'll just call it behavior that is disliked, just bad behavior. There's some bad behavior
Bad
out
decisions.
there. Bad decisions, bad strategies, just behind the back door kind of situation. So you as a buyer putting in these offers, the 14 offers, this and that, probably some of them you had really good experiences. Was there any that you kind of said to yourself, ooh, that isn't the way it should have went? Not particularly with your offer, but maybe the way
The process.
the process. Like,
Yeah,
did
yeah.
any agents reach out to you again to improve your offer?
So we actually got a kick at the can twice to come up and get the home.
Yep.
Because we always registered early. We'd submit a letter early. The one time I really loved this home at Forest Hill, and they didn't have a no bully thing at the time. And I hate the term bully offer because I would never bully anybody. Preemptive.
Yep.
So we wrote a really nice letter. I loved that home. It was so cool, funky. It was so anyway. Vaulted ceiling. That was another one that got away. But they wanted us to come up $60,000 from our top, and they offered it to us, thankfully. And we felt very gracious of that. But it was just like, I couldn't. And they're like, we need to know in the next 15 minutes. I'm like, I don't know if I can make that decision in 15 minutes. And we bowed out. And I'm okay with that decision for sure. But there were times where I found communication is the best thing you can do in this climate, being a realtor on the buying or the selling end.
Yeah.
So some of the best realtors, good examples of what I saw was, because a lot of these didn't have home inspections. So people would ask the same questions, like, what's the age of the roof? How's the furnace? What's the condition of the pool? Is there anything that we need to know? And the best experiences I had
from the
with
consumer
realtors,
perspective,
from the consumer
right?
perspective, is when I ask a question, but there's 20 other buyers looking at this home. So Sean would send out an email saying, hey, I'm pooling all the questions I had, and here are the answers. Give them to your buyers.
Yeah.
So now you're an educated buyer who doesn't get the education of the home inspection. Massive. Like, every realtor who's listing should be doing that. There are a lot of agents who barely answered questions, which is so frustrating when you're like, hey, I might put in an offer without a home inspection or financing, and I'm just asking a question about that leaky roof that I could see in the garage, and they don't have an answer, and they don't seek out the answer, and I'm like, your job is to get the best price for your seller, but at the same time educate the buyers, especially when the buyers' hands are tied behind their back.
I agree with you 100% on that, Nick. And I've been down that road myself, where of course it's like, hey, just give me the age of the roof, the furnace, and you want to make your offer, and the client's like, well, I need to know this information even before I make your offer. And then it's like 10 minutes till offer time. The agent's finally like, well, here you go. Here's the information.
Yeah.
It's like, and half the time, like, you're right, a lot of agents just won't even give it. A lot of agents won't even talk to you. It's just like, nope, send me your offer.
And this goes back.
Send me your offer, because in their mind, I don't care.
Right.
They're going to get the sale.
Some guy is going to give me so much money, and he hasn't asked me any questions.
Right.
And that's
I like him
fine.
better.
and that's it. They're like, he's my horse. So all you other guys, just throw in what you think. And I don't care about your buyers. And that is upsetting, because myself as a local realtor, I feel no matter what, my sign's on the lawn, I owe an obligation to the seller, but I also owe an obligation to the general public to help them make the best decision that they possibly can. And that's just continued service, which service in all industries, I find, in any business, is floundering.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's now a COVID thing or something like that, but just service is going out the window. This want it now is just taking things over. And
this goes back to what we talked about on the Instagram Live this morning. And if you didn't watch it, it'll be on all of our social media channels from March 25th, where in a market when there's only option 1 or 2 for a buyer, it's like there's only one restaurant on Main Street, 2 restaurants on Main Street. So if you're hungry, that's what you're eating. So from the leaky roof and the garage concept or analogy or anecdote, real story, there was an agent perspective, not the good agents, but there was some out there that would say, you know what? This guy's asking a lot of questions. He sounds like trouble. Yeah. I like the guy that doesn't do anything, sends me an offer 8 minutes after we asked for it, and it's $60,000 more than everybody else. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to say, hey, you saw the leaky roof. That was up to you, as opposed to, hey, here's the information we have.
Yeah.
It happens when this or blah, and we're just being transparent. But the difference is all of a sudden there's 16 restaurants on Main Street, and the people say, you know what? I don't have a good feeling with that agent, that house, that leaky attic. Let's go over to that place. That seems sound. And they just sent us a frequently asked questions summary or an upgrade summary or a fill in the blank here summary. And now as a buyer, I feel more comfortable. I'm going to sit down there and eat. Right?
Are SBIS is still a thing?
No.
That's the thing. Like, so SBIS is, I was telling my buddy about
Seller
them.
Property Information Statement.
SPIS.
But how awesome is that? Because now as a buyer, especially buyers who have no power in the negotiation for the most part, right? Like that's kind of how this market's gone. At least the buyer's educated. So yeah, we had a leak in the basement, but we got it remedied. Right now, like I had a friend who bought a house, and he's like, he saw it was like a block foundation. He's like, there's going to be water here, but they went through the walkthrough during a rainfall, and it wasn't like a little bit of dribble. It was like a pool. And so he had to revisit it, right? Yeah. His realtor went to the buying or the selling agent and was like, hey, we knew that there may be water, but we didn't know there was a pool. And so they got like $8,000 off to help rectify the problem.
That's amazing they got that.
That's amazing that they got that for sure.
Totally.
So you're moving through this process from 2020 into 2021, and you know you've talked about this where the market has been in the seller's favor, but there was times where sellers had full control. Like you said, they came back to you and just said, no, I want $60,000 more. That's what sellers could do. But through this process, I'm sure too, there was, you know, some balancing aspects, but which is kind of bringing to me to where you are today. Yes. So you saw these houses, you saw 25 houses offered on 14. Here we are, 2022. Oof. And January and February,
right there.
You got to see some of the highest, craziest sale prices.
Yeah.
But Nick, your journey started, like you said, my house would be listed at $599 and here it is at $899. But you continually muscled. Part of the reason though, because guess what? You had a house. Yeah. It's all relative.
Oh,
right?
Totally.
The big challenge I've always found in this market is the people who have to buy and sell.
Yes.
I've noticed my best time for that has been the end of April into May, June, and July, because that's when it's a little more balanced and people who are buying and selling kind of know their values a little better. And I feel we're definitely going that direction right now. So let's talk a little bit. Do you mind saying the house you kind of purchased?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Nope.
Yeah. So we bought over on Mariners.
Fantastic area.
Love
nice
it.
North End location.
Mariners Court. We went through an open house.
Oh,
and
saved your dad some time. Nice,
good
guy.
My dad's like, I want to see it.
Oh, beautiful.
Like, we were like, we want to put an offer. My
dad
dad's
what a
like,
Pat Burke and Sean DeLotte would do.
Yeah.
We show up with our clients anyways.
Yeah.
Because we'd be nervous though. We don't want the listing agent to scoop our clients.
Oh.
So that's why we show up.
From my dad was awesome throughout the whole process, especially with showing us. So he was always like, well, I get to hang out with you and Kristen. It's all good. But he was interested, right? Because for him, he's actually not just helping random clients buy a house. This is where he's gonna have Christmas dinner and things like that. So he's kind of like, you know. Anyway, there's a couple that we had an in-law suite and we were debating like, do you want to move?
Yeah.
So that one, yeah. Anyway,
did
not happen. But
okay.
But yeah. So we went through an open house on Mariners, and everyone was the neighborhood tire kickers, or maybe they were interested. I don't know. But even the realtor was the next door neighbor. And my wife and I love that because my wife and I, we really just got to get a sense for the community there. And we're like, oh, like nice. Like we really like this. We knew it was a nice street, but now it's like, oh, we already know 3 of the neighbors and they're all cool people.
Oh, that helps a lot.
That really helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's that. So we bought in the same school district. Yeah.
And you competed against how many offers?
Us and one other person.
So there you go, guys. This is 2022 where houses were selling for $200,000, $300,000 over the asking price. and we talk about a balancing. And Nick, who has journeyed for 2 years, finally had an opportunity where he went against one other person. You got the house. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Then it comes to selling your home.
Yeah.
Can we press pause 1 second before we get into that? Because I'm curious and I meant to ask it earlier when I was chatting, was on all these offers when you're 1 of 10, 1 of 2, 1 of whatever offers, would you have rather, because there's always this debate about open bid processes.
Yeah.
And you talk about the one listing where you were 60,000 below the first place finisher.
Yeah.
And how the process would change if there's 8 offers and everybody knows what each other's offering.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have seen that?
Way more.
Yeah.
Like, because here's the thing. Like, I mean, it's also it's controlling the overall market value. I think when you have emotions, hey, I've put 8 offers in. I have seen crazy stuff happen. I saw 3 Teslas leave the house before I saw my showing. And the other thing too is the amount of time. This is the thing that frustrated me the most. The amount of times realtors weren't communicating how many offers were coming in, and you have to make a game day decision on what your price is. Like my wife and I always had kind of like a range, but I'd be like the one, it was like 7 offers. Cool. All right, get your offer in. Ended up being 12 offers. Yeah. So in the cutoff time to an hour later, 5 additional offers came in. And that's what happens. Yeah. And it's like, it's just rude. And so for us, like that was, anyway. Yep. I hate that. But so if you did have this, you could be like, hey, here's 8 people. They all want it for the list price. Okay, who's going to come up, 50,000 above? Okay, 3 are dropping off. Sweet. And now you can have something where the buyers feel like, hey, I won something without having to, take
I like the
site
that you. I love the fact that you're talking about the psychology, the psychology, trying to figure it out, because you know what? As this first started, this multiple offers back in 2017, it used to be like you had $5,000 per offer. And
remember that?
It'd be like $5,000 per offer. You kind of get it. Yeah. Or there was other ones where I'm like, okay, I'm on 2 or 3 offers. I know if we just go 25 over, we're going to get it. Yeah. And I was pretty good at winning. Yeah. But then all of a sudden we got into last year and I wasn't a winner anymore. I'm always very cautious during the January and February. I always encourage my people just to stay the heck out because we know inventory is going to come in spring. This year. And honestly, I've shown very few houses because I'm like, guys, the times will change. It happened in 2020. It happened in 2021. And here you are, a winner, and you got a great house. And
in February,
the tail end. But and then you listed your house, and we all know the kind of strategies everyone's been having. This list it low or hold offer strategy to get big numbers, and which works really well when there's no houses for sale. But you can notice you only had to compete against one other offer, so that kind of says something's happening. So you, as a seller, did you want to put yourself at the mercy of the market and the other buyers, or did you want to be a seller in control of your own destiny and put it at a price where you were comfortable that, something right around here, I'm happy?
So there were a lot of big conversations around that. Just because for us, there's a couple things. Like I also like to be transparent with a lot of things. So for me, I didn't want to be like, hey, well, this is the price we want. Let's go 6 figures under and hope. And there was a lot of strategies like that. A lot of realtors were like, well, I think it's going to sell for 9. So we listed 750. And you're like, why? And the reality is we're not getting 9 because it's valued at 9. We're getting 9 because we are causing psychological warfare to the buyers, and that is honestly what it is. It's like let's cause a stir. It's
fear of loss, and it's like purest, most.
It's psychological warfare on agents as well. Like we hate it. We hate this too. Like I am the least favorite fan of this. I love real estate. I love helping people. But this whole process, this whole always January, February, and March, I want to retire.
Yeah. But also, you have to look at it. Whenever we've lost on, I would say all of our offers but 2, I was like, oh, this sucks. But we lost, and we're like, I wouldn't want it for more than that.
No.
You're protecting your buyers,
Let them have
which
it.
is a long-term thing. I feel for, like, we were always grateful that we had a home, so we're always working with the same margin, whether or not our home sold for $2 million, and we had to, we're still working to move for the same budget, right?
Sure.
But like for the first-time home buyers, like, oh my gosh, if you don't like, if you buy a house that you don't even like, who cares? It goes up 200,000 in a year. And that's where it's hard, because eventually you need, 20% more down. You are going to get into a bigger mortgage, all this stuff. So I feel for like where it may be hard to buy and sell, not having a mortgage and then seeing the market climb, and now your budget stays relatively the same, but the quality of home drops. That's so demoralizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we were talking about
your house price. So you chose to list it a little higher to the or not a higher, but at market value, I would say, rather than below market value.
Yeah.
With the anticipation of getting very close to your asking price, or with the opportunity that maybe, hey, I might get a little extra gravy, but you weren't looking for the lottery win.
Yes, we didn't. I didn't want to. First of all, I didn't want to gamble.
Yep.
So I didn't want to be like, hey, I want to list like $799 and hope for 6 figures above. Also, and this was a really hard process, because you're like, oh, we've been kind of like brutalized through the whole buying process.
Brutalized.
It was disappointing. It's you see
That's
your
why
life.
That's why you're sitting in this chair right now. Yeah.
So you have that, and then all of a sudden it's like, now you have a responsibility. At least I felt. So when we listed, I knew, first of all, it's hard to even know what your home's worth.
What's market value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to our dilemma.
Yeah.
But I knew what I would feel good with. And so we had like about a $50,000 range that I'm like, if it's in there, we feel good. And so we priced our home right in the square middle of that, so that we can go up or we can go down. We even had that conversation. What if we don't? We've never been in an offer situation where there was like one offer, but and that's what ended up happening on our home. The crazy thing is so with our home, we didn't have as many showings, and that was kind of the thing I wasn't mentally prepared for. The craziest thing though is the majority of people who are looking at our home were all considering putting in offers.
Because and what you did was you
crazy.
attracted the people who can afford your home, and didn't suck in all the people who can't afford your home to bolster the offers.
Yeah.
Now the question is this though: you went $799, you might have yielded $850, because we're touching on that there is this balancing, and
and then you got to come back to the market with your hat in your hand and say, hey guys, remember earlier? Sorry, that was a mistake. This is actually what we want.
Yeah.
And then you've lost your sort of credibility, and a buyer now the buyer's sort of squaring off with you and saying, all right, let's go.
Well, in on the flip side, so like, you could go lower, but there was like one on, I think it was Joanna.
The shift, man. You're putting yourself at mercy.
It was listed at $749 and sold $935. So there is also another thing where we could have got more. The reality is, I feel what we got was fair.
Yep.
And I'm happy with it, and I hope that our buyers are happy with it too. And we were able to go through a process. We even got to negotiate, which was like emotional, but it was kind of fun. I always look at negotiating as you take one step forward, I take one step forward. We're respecting each other. In the end, I want to meet at a price that you feel good, I feel good, and I know that's how when I sold real estate, I'm like, we don't need to make sure these people bleed out.
Yeah.
These people like your home. You love your home. Like, you want them to be happy, right? And that's not saying give it away, but that's not saying be taken advantage of. It's finding there's a lack of humanity in this market. People are, and so we love our neighbors. So we have a nice young couple who's moving into our home who I know is going to get it feels like they're going to get along.
And that's good old school real estate though. A transaction where you're happy, the buyer's happy. The agents are happy.
Yeah.
It's just good old-fashioned, old school real estate, And don't get me wrong, like, sellers are happy when they get these crazy numbers.
Yeah.
And the buyers appear happy because they got the house. But then they maybe find out what the other offer is, and then they're not happy or anything like that, right? So
I love that sentence that there's a lack of humanity in the process. And Sean, you've probably had it. I have, is where a seller gets so much money, they're not even happy. They're sort of confused. They don't know what to feel because in the back, lingering there is like,
it's not real.
ooh.
It's always Sean. I'll believe this when
I get the money in my account.
Exactly. It's I'll believe this when I get to closing, because that's the other thing we never experienced down here until the past couple years. Deals not closing.
Yeah.
I never worried about deposits going back 5 years ago. It was just but now it's like, get that deposit in, in,
Yeah.
So, well, I would like to congratulate you, Nick. It was a long process. You got a great family home. You're happy.
Yeah.
You sold your family home to a lovely couple who's going to help the neighbors and everyone be great. So through this process though, would you have done anything differently?
Ooh, what a good question.
If you could rewind the tape.
If I could rewind. So the thing that I kind of felt hijacked with the past couple of years while we were doing the buying process is we're like, what do we do to our home? What don't we do to our home? Like, it was all getting stuff ready for sale. And like, there was a couple things that we may have done renovation wise, just even prep the home, make our home even more valuable if possible. So there's that element. Honestly, it was fine. Like we really were happy where we were, and we got to have.
So you didn't have pressure.
No, we didn't.
It's
we didn't have pressure.
And that's the nice thing when you're throwing in offers. And I always encourage my clients, guys, you got to remind yourself, what's meant to be is meant to be. If you don't get this house, guess what? It's not the last house on earth. More houses will come up. I remember a scenario where I literally had this woman in tears. Like, this is years ago.
Just yelling at her?
No. She was in tears. She was in tears crying that she lost this house and she thought her life was over and, she was never, ever going to find a house again.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, we went dark. We didn't talk for a week and a half. And then all of a sudden a house came up. I saw it at 10 o'clock. I called her. I said, you're coming with me at lunch. I'm not even telling you, here's the address. Just meet me here. It's your new home. Sure enough, we went and saw it. And that day it was boom. We had an offer in, deal done by 7.
That's awesome.
And she, so the key thing is people beat themselves up, but the key thing is you own a home. Yeah. So you were comfortable and happy with where you're at. It's a different thing if you're a buyer out there, a first-time home buyer who's beating themselves up and just, you know what I mean? Just losing and stuff like that. So, but, from what we've talked about, I don't really know if there's anything you could have done really different. You go see the houses, you throw in your bid that you want and that. But
they stayed on track though. Eh? Like sometimes where you'll see people, they get to that, to hell with it, just give them this. And you guys didn't do that. You didn't compromise on your
I'll tell you,
overall plan.
Because Nick is a local. And locals, and that's myself as an agent. I cannot let my clients do the $250,000 over the asking price. I just can't.
We did a couple. We did one over 200. But it
was grossly
so underpriced.
12 off. That one went 380,000 over, and you're like, okay, so even that, like we went 200 over.
Yeah.
Someone went
you still
180 over us.
Yeah.
Like it's just in those spans, it's demoralizing. But then my wife and I would look back, we're like, that wasn't that's $8.99.
It wasn't even real. Yeah.
That wasn't. Yeah. But that's a real. I don't know. In real estate, it would be so tricky because you have your duty to your seller. I need to get you the best bang for your buck. But also, like, local realtors are caring. Some local realtors, some aren't, are caring about the health of the overall market, and that's so important. I think that
they feel a duty to the big picture.
Totally,
you hit the nail right in the head. I feel as ourselves as realtors, like, sure, this craziness is going on now, and $699 is the north end price, and yes, people were getting $800 to $900. That is shifting. I feel it's our duty. We have people who are looking at selling in April, May, June. We got to protect their values. If we keep compressing the market down, it's just going to suck it down.
Yeah.
And anyways, that's my frustration. It is what it is kind of with the market. I think the tides are turning. But, one other quick thing I got for you, because this is very important for everyone. And I think we can kind of wrap it up on this note is for everyone listening, you went through this crazy process. Someone who's about to start their home search, what advice would you give them?
Lessons learned from Nick Mirka.
That's it.
Local realtor. No,
aside from the audio stuff.
I saw that. I deal with marketing all the time, so I'm like, oh, here's a swing of the fence.
Thanks, buddy.
Anyway, if you're gonna start, first of all, I still think housing pricing is gonna increase and increase and increase. So if you are a first-time home buyer, I hate to say this, but don't be too choosy. It's like get in the market.
More compromise.
Yeah.
More compromise.
Be a little bit more flexible.
Yep.
That's for sure. The other thing too, like for us, like we put offers in on 14 homes. And we could have saw ourselves like living and loving in probably all of them. Even the ones that we were iffy on, we put in offers like, hey, it's competition. If we get for this price,
if we get
it.
Yeah.
We did a couple of those, but really the home is where you like figure out what you need, and outside of that, you're taking your family, you're taking whatever, you're making it your own. So there's not really the one that got away, because another one will come up. So there is that
meant to be is meant to be.
Yeah.
And people got to really realize that. I find that's the one thing. So many people get caught up in it.
Yeah.
And like I said, you owned a home, it's a little easier.
Yeah.
Buyers, they get that. I just need it now. Then I'm done with this and stuff like that. But again, like you said, and it's just not even the local realtor. Just lean on a realtor. I agree. A person should choose a person in the market they're looking, but lean on a realtor. They're watching the market. They're watching the ebbs and flows. Through the past 3 years of your journey, there has been ebbs and flows, obviously really heightened
Massive
spikes,
ebbs and flows.
but then all of a sudden little points of balancing.
Yep.
And again, I encourage, so for first-time home buyers, like June, July, and August of this year, I think might offer
might have some opportunities. Yeah.
You might be able to get conditions in, or you won't be fighting against as many offers. So the key thing is patience. And right now, unfortunately, there is no dream house. I'm sure you made some compromises on the house you purchased as well. You told me you're removing wallpaper and stuff like that. So it obviously needs some updating and work.
Take a look at it.
I'll check it out after.
You got to check it out.
She's a gemmer.
It's
I'll look forward to the I'll look forward to the after that.
Yeah. We got the carpet in the bathroom, so that's always.
Hey, if you can't have heated tile, at least you have.
You got to make sure the wife peels that out. Then rip that out, honey. Get right by the toilet. Get right by the toilet. Make sure it's all gone.
Yeah. There's something about carpet by the toilet. You're sitting. You hope that everyone sat down.
Unless you're in England, and then it's charming and it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, well, you know what? I think we appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
I think what I've seen, the biggest takeaway that I've seen from what you said is having a clear plan,
good representation,
having consensus.
Yep.
Between you and your family.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of conversations.
Being on the same page.
What are your values?
And then as long as you stay within that consensus, within that clear plan.
Yeah.
Have somebody giving you sound advice on
Good
a daily basis, because
representation,
we mentioned it on the IG Live this morning. January was the worst January ever for a lot of market activity, and February was one of the best Februaries ever.
Yeah.
So you talk about if somebody's actively representing you, they have to be aware that how quickly things went from the worst to the best, right?
Yeah.
And so so clear plan, consensus, and then really strong advice.
Totally.
That's to me what I take away from what you said.
Yeah, and communication is huge, like across the board for everything with that. For me, what I think always made me feel good about winning or like getting our home, but also even losing these ones, is we knew what we didn't want to compromise on, and we stuck true with that. And then just understand that like you're working with margins, at least when you're buying and selling. So we always felt, okay, so if we bought it for this and we could sell in and around this, like where's our flex? And that gave us at least power within our own decisions, even if we don't get the offer. Like we felt good.
Yeah.
You know, if you lose, you didn't really want to win anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let them have it, kind of.
Yeah.
Perfect.
This was, whoa! I just cut up there. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank you
to
guys.
the entire.
We appreciate it, man. That was awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's very intriguing for people to look at the journey. Like it's wild, man.
It is a
And
journey.
you did it, buddy. You did it.
It
So
is a journey.
And we felt good
Congratulations.
in the end too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
and you can look forward to the next phase, right?
Yeah. Renovations.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to our guest, our first guest, Nick Mirka. And on behalf of myself and Sean, anything you want to say?
Good times as usual, Pat. Good times as usual.
Stay tuned. This is going to be an interesting spring market, and we'll be back with you ASAP with our next episode. Otherwise, stay tuned.
See you guys.
All right. Thank you.